Welcome to Bradford and Brooks with your host, Margie Bradford and Jim Brooks, live on WBRT here in downtown Bardstown. The show is sponsored by Springview Hospital in Lebanon. Thank you for listening to 97.1 FM, 1320 AM, and 94.9 FM in Lebanon. Bradford and Brooks, a civil discourse of discussion where community involvement is encouraged. Bradford and Brooks is on.
All right, good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to another edition of Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford here with you this morning. Good morning, Margie.
Good morning, Jim.
Well, we've got a beautiful Wednesday morning outside. We're going to have a pretty good week, I think.
I think so.
Then I get to catch up on all that grass I need to mow.
Well,
or bale, whichever is the case may be.
Well, that's kind of what happened to my yard this week. I thought they were going to have to use a baler on it.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of people in that same boat.
Absolutely.
But at least we have a reprieve. And though I will tell you that all that rain did our garden good.
Yep.
And the weeds in the garden.
How are your tomatoes doing?
Oh, we've got good-sized green tomatoes.
Okay.
We're just waiting.
Now, don't forget me. Don't forget me. You got to bring me a couple of tomatoes.
Well, we're just hoping that the rabbit or the groundhog doesn't come in. We didn't fence the garden off this year. So anyway, but we haven't lost any plants yet.
Oh, well,
I think there's plenty.
Good. Guard those tomatoes with your life.
All right, Margie. Well, Margie, we have a very special show today. Well, I have an in-studio guest here, Mr. Jeff Stone. And Jeff is president of the local branch of the NAACP. And you may have heard Jeff's name mentioned in the news at the top of the hour. He was at Fiscal Court yesterday and earlier this month, raising concerns about the conditions at the jail and especially in regard to the unfortunate death of a Bardstown man who was an inmate at the jail, and so he's raised some excellent questions, and we're going to talk with Jeff about his observations. He actually visited the jail on Monday, and talk a little bit about that and some other things. So good morning, Jeff, and thank you for coming.
Well, good morning to you, and I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to talk. One of the things that really helped me when I was in college and where I got most of my learning was in the grill, having open and honest discussions with people of all races and nationalities, and it's where I honed my skills to listening to what is the truth and what is a sort of watered down version of that, I guess is the best way. So that's sanitized. Thank you.
Right. Well, Jeff, you tell our listeners a little bit about the, I would say most of our listeners have heard of the NAACP, but give us a little bit about an update. And many people may not be aware of its long history.
So the NAACP started at the beginning of the century, around 1909. It was started by a group, a very diverse group, and that diverse group included people of different colors, both black, white, Jewish, and other races. And so that historic representation has followed the NAACP throughout its years, throughout its really more in front years of the 1960s, but more so importantly at the beginning when a lot of rights were being asked about women's rights, the right to vote for both black and white and women. And so the NAACP is not what a lot of people think, even though the title suggests that it's the advancement of colored people. It is that color does not stop. It goes across the spectrum of colors. And so therefore that has allowed us to be able to fight on various different fronts and only look at it from a question of right or wrong, not political, Republican or Democrat. I don't know if you know, but your listeners know, but the NAACP does not endorse candidates. Okay, we may endorse ideas, we may have a platform of our own, and what we ask our members and others to look at that platform and to see what candidate, whatever party, fits what that is. And so that allows the candidates to gear themselves toward that. And so the same thing is true locally. The Nelson County branch is very diverse, and its efforts have been to seek out and correct injustices that will affect all. So the two, and if I can say that right now, the two main complaints that we have at the NAACP that we are fighting right now can affect any race.
Sure.
Okay, so when you talk about problems at the jail, it's not just black people in there. It can affect anywhere. So if we improve the jail, the environment, the conditions at the jail, we improve it for all. Sure. The same thing about the baby at the daycare center. If we improve or eliminate that problem at that daycare center, we affect everybody that's there, and so it's everybody. And historically, when you look at civil rights, Title IX came out of that. And so the right for women, so it's not just a, hey, this is an organization that only works for the black people and the black people only. We look at injustice as an injustice, and the same as once said. And so we look like it. So our mission statement or our goal is, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It's a true thing for us, okay? And so we are there. The NAACP has been there and will be there to stand in the breach to make sure that as that arc starts to unbend, that we continue to keep that bend as it goes toward justice.
Yes, I remember that. I remember Title IX very, very well, and it was very much celebrated by all women.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you spoke to Fiscal Court yesterday, and if you go to the NelsonCountyGazette.com, you can read my story and also the video I shot of Jeff's presentation to the court. And most of your conversation was about the jail, and it was, to me, it was significant because you said you had kind of had prepared notes for what you were going to say, but then you had an opportunity to tour the jail, which you had been requesting for a very long time.
14 weeks. For 14 weeks. Right.
But finally had a chance to. And the conditions you saw at the jail really took precedent over your other comments. But tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I went to I researched, so I understand the rules. So when I went to the fiscal court the first time, I didn't go there to speak. I knew the rules were you had to be on the agenda to speak. Right. So therefore, I was going to follow those rules. I mean, ours is a patient. The NAACP is a patient struggle, and so I understood the rules. So when I went there yesterday, I had from the time that I had said I want to be on the agenda, I had started building my case and what I was going to say to the fiscal court. Unfortunately, I went to the jail the day before.
Right.
So it wiped out just about everything I said because, to be honest with you, I had more of the blame on the jailer than I did on the fiscal court. I went to the jail and everything went out the window. So what you heard from me that day was passion and from the heart. It wasn't something prepared because what I prepared just was not right. Now, does the jailer have some part in this? And I don't want to say blame. I'm just saying some part in this, responsibility in this. Yes, of course. I mean, in the end, it's his responsibility to manage the jail. It's his responsibility to ask for the funds he needs. It's his responsibility to. That's the hill he dies on. He dies on the hill of trying to get the money for the jail. When he doesn't do that, he doesn't live up to his responsibility. So it's a shirking of his public duty, and so there's blame for him there. Okay, but the fiscal court, and even yesterday, from what I understood, they took the advice of an expert, or at the very least, what the community as a majority said was the expert, and cut that money down. Okay, that's what they did. And so the question is, did they do that based on some knowledge they had? Did they do that based on actually going into the jail and seeing what needed to be done? No, but what they did was they talked about, one, the $400 million that they spent on the jail to this point. And I got to tell you, if you haven't spent anything for the last 10 years, $400 million, $400 million won't go anywhere, actually. So blame there. Okay, but what's important to the NAACP is the the safety of the individual. So I don't want to get in the weeds there when I start talking about and trying to unpack what the jail should do, what the fiscal court should do. That's not my job.
Right.
Okay, my job is to make sure that it's clear that the problem in the jail is substantial, and then let them do what they want. Now, I will say this: I am not going to be one of these people pounding out there and always attacking them, or anything like that without doing anything. If they want my help, I'm willing to give my help. I don't know what that would be. I'm not a jailer, and I don't play one on TV. Yeah. So I absolutely cannot say that I can fix that, but I know what I saw. And what surprised me most of all is that I didn't come away from there feeling like that the magistrates or the county judge executive had been there in the last few years or few months. Or let's do it like this: they have been there since there was a death in the jail. If I had someone, when I was the operations manager of a distillery in Louisville, if I had someone to hurt themselves by rolling a barrel of their foot or something like that, the world stopped. Everybody wanted to know what happened, what can we do to prevent this, and what resources do you need to prevent that. And so what I'm saying to you is, and this is something that any intrepid reporter can check on, but I'm saying that I did not feel like any of those people yesterday had been to that jail after there was a death there. And so from the NAACP standpoint, and don't let me manipulate this conversation, but if the NAACP standpoint, we look at it as, is it safe or is it unsafe? And then what they're going to do about it, they're going to do about it.
Well, tell us what you did observe.
Oh my goodness! So first thing I observed is a inmate opening a maximum security cell with a plastic spoon, which is incredible as the first thing to see. And then when we went into cells, I don't know exactly what I'm not going to say that. I know what it was. The moisture in the air had condensated to the ground, and there was a slime on the ground that had to dry off the bottom of my foot before I could walk through the halls after we got out of the cell. So there was a humidity there that air changes were not correcting. So first thing.
Right.
And that was significant to me then, but more significant at the fiscal court meeting, because they said they put money into the air system. So wow, really? And okay, the next thing was there was one guard that was watching all of the videos of all the action that was going on in the jail, and their responsibility was to let me in the front door. Okay? So at the very least, from the time it took for me to give them my driver's license, for them to check my driver's license, for them to give me my driver's license back, drugs were potentially flowing down the floor of the jail. Okay, and then the other thing was, it just seemed like there was just so many women in that cell that it wasn't enough room. I don't know, but you know what I mean. It was so stifling in there. Now look, here's my thing: you do something wrong, you go to jail.
Sure,
I get that. That's I'm not preaching that we should let them all out or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, if the sentence is that you serve 6 weeks in jail, it is not that you serve 6 weeks plus you slowly die of black mold. Plus you have to live in conditions that are draconian at best. I don't know how to describe it. And so my soapbox is to get up on, my job is to get up on that soapbox and say, this is not safe. This is not an environment that we have inmates in this day and century. It's just not. And so I'm going to always do that. And so that's what we're doing now.
Well, the issue of the inmate who passed away was that person died of an overdose. What were you able to observe or find out about what the jail does to try to keep that from happening? Did you get any sense of what they're trying to do, or what they were did or didn't do? So
first I want to say that I don't want to jump to that conclusion of death by overdose, because the investigation has not been completed.
Right.
But what I will say though is there was a death certificate that was issued that said it was accidental death. And my concern is that how can you have a determination of manner of death or cause of death if the investigation is not complete?
Yes.
But what I will say, though, is today I have issued a Freedom of Information request because the investigation is complete. I have the case number. I have submitted that request, and so I will be able to answer your questions on that. But let's take it as, because that's what everybody's saying, and that's what I truly believe, that he died of an overdose. I first want to talk about what they didn't do. Okay, so in every cell there is a video camera. Okay, every cell there's a video camera. Every hall there's a video camera. There's video cameras in all strategic places in the jail. You know how they work or whatever. So the story I was told was LeBrant, and stop me. The story I was told was LeBrant was missed breakfast, he missed lunch, and they found him in his jail cell in the afternoon. So there's two things that are really stand out in that. One is that they tell me that the jail procedure is to make that walk once an hour. I don't know how they missed him there. And the other is that there are video cameras that would have shown him lying on the floor or at least in some distress in the cell. And what I am saying is that the responsibilities of the person monitoring those videos are such that they could miss something that big. That big. And so when I say that at the very least there ought to be someone rotating in and out of watching those video cameras, some new person, okay? I'm not saying try to take the three people there and make one of them do it and make it even less, because what I feel is it will reduce. It may not, we're not saying we want to eliminate, our end goal is to really eliminate drugs in the jail, but that is a really, really tall order, but we can minimize it. But what we can't do is allow it. We can't allow it to go on. And so if you're saying that I'm saying that hiring one more person that can watch that video camera, that can watch the hallways as they fish drugs from a supplier to the supplied, and actually see it going down the hallway like a little mouse or something like that, and be able to stop that, then we can reduce it a lot. But if we've already given up and said, we don't have the money, they won't give us the money, and we don't have the person, we'll do the best we can, then you're going to have drugs there. But you're not going to have it because the inmates are better. You're going to have it because the system is worse. Okay.
Well, I guess, wouldn't you say it's fair to say that a large number of people are in the jail because of a drug problem?
Well, so I'm always careful when I generalize, because I feel like that probably is true. The meth situation in this area is pretty bad, and it's not here; it's everywhere. Sure. So I would say, let me say this: if it's not for actually dealing drugs or taking drugs, it's an ancillary problem with drugs that got them there. They stole so they could get drugs. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would say that in the equation somewhere, it would probably be safe to say that drugs were in the equation somewhere.
And I would say that there are a number of people who are in there simply because their families are trying to save them.
Oh yeah,
and keep them away from drugs. Yeah. And that's one way they can do it.
Jeff, tell us a little bit about you mentioned black mold, and I know that's considered a significant health hazard in homes.
Yes.
But you saw quite a bit of it at the jail.
So if you were ever in the jail, there is a main hallway that exists there, and then there's cells on either side. Right. At the very end of that hallway, there is I think a 8-person cell as opposed to a larger, more people cell, and right at the outside of that door on the ceiling up there was just 40% of it was black and molded. Okay, and then even the places where you don't see mold, it looked like it had been freshly painted. So for me to tell you that mold was only there, it could have been. And the thing about mold, whether it's black mold or any kind of mold, is painting over it doesn't, encapsulating it doesn't kill the mold. Okay, it really doesn't. And if the mold is prevalent outside and you can see it, then it's in the ventilation system. It's probably starting through the ventilation system, actually. And so that's great for somebody that doesn't want to spend money because you can't see it. And so you really have a place to hang your hat on. Well, I didn't know there was mold there. I couldn't see it. But when you wait so long as to it starts to show up where you can see it,
You're breathing it.
Yeah, you're breathing it, and you already lost the rate. I mean, they were, and so the question came yesterday: has anybody complained or went to the hospital because of mold? I guess it's sort of a way to fend off the fact of, well, if we haven't hurt anybody, it's not. And so that's why I said, I feel kind of congested now. I was there for 3 hours. So if you want somebody to say that they might have ingested it, okay, I'll speak up. An inmate might not. They might not know. Mm-hmm. And like I said, 30 years down the road, people could have respiratory problems as a retired guard. Mm-hmm. And we don't know where it came from. So why not? And so again, the thing that they pounced on was, hey, we're going to fix this black mold problem. But that's not going to do anything about the video systems. Mm-hmm. That's not going to do anything about and so when I talked about the spoon thing, what the real problem is the electronic locks are antiquated. Mm-hmm. And so therefore it makes it easy to work around them. And I got to tell you, you got 1960 technology, and you got 21st century. For all I know, these guys could have somebody outside dial a number and Wi-Fi it open. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's really important. It's really important when you're talking about those sort of things that those have to be addressed. And fixing the black mold will not do anything to bring the jail up to 2022 technology.
Right. Right. Well, I did a little research, and the drugs in jails and correctional facilities, is a problem for all of them. Mm-hmm. But and of course the problem is the more you do, the more creative inmates can be. But yet, if you don't do anything, you don't slow that tide of illicit drugs. And I was telling Margie that there was I read a report from the UK. And outside some of their correctional facilities, they found in the woods people had built catapults.
I thought you were going to say that. Yeah. For some reason, I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, that's certainly creative, or shipping it in through a personal visit, had the baby diaper, there's however they can, there's lots of creative ways. But but there's technology out there. There's some jails have drug sniffing dogs at the jail. Sometimes it's drug testing, random drug testing of inmates.
Right.
Of course, if they've only been there a day or two, that's probably not helpful. Mm-hmm. But there's lots of strategies to use, and I think that and as Buck will tell you that he has charged more people for contraband mm-hmm. since he's been jailer mm-hmm. than was mm-hmm. done before.
Right.
And so I'm sure he would certainly recognize it's a problem that every jail has to fight. But if sitting back and doing nothing is not a solution.
Yeah, and Margie, you appreciate this, and it kind of Margie. Can I call you Margie?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the one thing that I told to both Jessica and Buck down at the jail the other day. And I use this analogy: if you've got a mouse in your cupboard, it spends all day long trying to figure out how to get into your flower box, your bag of flour. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have anything on its mind. It just stays on it minute by minute, day by day, year by year, until it gets into that flour bag. Same thing is true for inmates. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything else to do but try to beat the system. Right. That's all they have to do. They can watch TV or beat the system, and it's probably more fun to beat the system. Mm-hmm. And so what I told Buck and Jessica was this: you need to be as creative. Actually what I said is, you are in a university and you're not taking advantage of the classes that are being offered. You should be as aggressive and creative on trying to find ways to fund the jail as they are trying to find ways to work around some of the systems. And it's just as simple as that.
Right. Well, and the problem I think that the jail faces is the fact that they don't control their funding.
That's true. That's true.
And that has to come from fiscal court, and that's the fight they have to win to really have adequate funding for some of these technologies. But I don't know, if nobody brings this, highlights the problem, there's never solution.
Yeah, this problem could have went on for years because no one knows that there is mold in the jail. But the one advantage I had going into fiscal court is it's a fact. It's there. For anybody to go, you can go down there right now, and even if they try to wipe it down, the black mold, they would have to literally take the ceiling down and replace it, and you see new ceiling there. But I understand that the problem or the NAACP, when we talk about this, we understand that the problem here is the system. They can think they can throw Buck Snelling under the bus and be able to protect that system, but our eyes and our target is the system. And the system is that the way that the jail is funded, the way that the budget is generated, the way that the budget is called to decide what is going to actually be the approved budget is where we think the problem is. Now, have the money, don't have the money, we can't speak on that. But I will say this, whenever there's a true problem, if you just deem it as a true problem, you will find the funding to fix that problem. But you have to have the will, and so that's why yesterday I felt successful in what happened yesterday because I got the measure of the court. I wanted to find out where their will was. I wanted them to have the opportunity to speak up, and some of them who didn't, some of those who remained mute, had the opportunity to say, "Well, you know what? We agree with this. We're going to." We're going to put together a sham committee and make you shut up. Whatever you have to do, right? But, none of that was said. And they had the opportunity to say it. So silence is the same thing as saying, let's keep the status quo. Yeah. That's where we are.
Right. All right. Well, let's take a commercial break. You're listening to Bradford and Brooks and our very special guest, NAACP President Jeff Stone. We'll be back in just a few moments after these messages. Stay tuned. All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks here with my co-host Margie Bradford on this I guess partly cloudy Wednesday morning, and it still looks pretty nice outside. Let's see, what's the high today? High near 87, so it's going to be another typical July day, I think. But not bad. At least it's not raining. That's what I can say. All right, our special studio guest today is Mr. Jeff Stone. He's the president of the local NAACP, and we've been talking about his visit to Nelson Fiscal Court yesterday, and in his visit on Monday down at the Nelson County Jail, and some of the conditions he found, and of course this is all kind of goes back to the tragic death of an inmate, LeBrent Maddox, in March, I believe, and as you said earlier, I think there will be very soon a Kentucky State Police investigation report on what they found. That'll be coming out soon.
Yeah, that's correct. I got the letter or the email from Detective Mike Cook at the Post 4 yesterday, and so I have already issued a Freedom of Information request for that to the state police. So hopefully I'll get that by email. But as I leave here, I'm going to follow up with a certified letter so that I will make sure that I get that. That's going to be important. I think that we'll have to digest that.
Sure.
That'll be important. But more importantly, what it will be is it will allow us to see the autopsy report that the family has been asking for quite some time, that has been available for quite some time, that we as NAACP requested from a Freedom of Information Act and were denied by the county attorney. And so we should be able to get that now, and it should be available to them now. And so I haven't really decided whether I'm going to go straight to the coroner or go back to the county. I think I'll go to the coroner. I mean, I'll ask for that again from the coroner.
Sure.
Because there's nothing to base on not giving it to me now because the investigation is complete.
Right. There's no reason to
deny it. There's no reason to deny it, right?
Sure.
Well, unless we come up with a new one, and that will be informational as well.
Well, Jeff, I know that we've been talking about the conditions at the Nelson County Jail, because that's where Mr. Maddox was found unresponsive in a cell, and I think you've brought up some really interesting points about the person. There's not a person dedicated full time to watching the video cameras, the monitors, and I, the whole theme that we need to do more to restrict and discourage the flow of drugs into the jail. I don't know if you remember, some years ago, there was a hole in one of the walls, exterior walls, and they were passing drugs through that.
Right.
So as you said, inmates can be creative, but
well, heaven forbid if we didn't have enough money allotted to us to fill that hole. Right. And so that's the premise that I'm talking about now. Now we have other holes,
right,
and we have to have the will to fill those holes.
Right.
Right,
but as you said, it's not you're the NCAA's job to tell fiscal court how to fund the jail.
Exactly.
But you're certainly pointing out the need to take some action to improve things. And I'm sure that I would. Of course, I haven't talked to Buck about this, but I'm sure that the Kentucky Jailers Association, I mean, this is a problem at every correctional facility, and I'm sure it's they discuss methods of trying to do that. But I think, as you pointed out at fiscal court yesterday, that doing nothing could lead to another death in the jail.
Right.
And I think that's I think that hit home to me, because I think the jail has been kind of
it's kind of a stepchild.
It's kind of a stepchild, because it's an expense and it doesn't bring in any revenue.
Red-headed stepchild.
Yeah, red-headed stepchild. Yes.
Exactly, and it's just something that they have to put money in, and so I think I agree. I think it's time to look at that again, and see if I think inmate and employee safety, it should be paramount. It's an old facility. It's been there quite a while.
I can't deny that.
And there was talk about expanding or building a new one, but that all involves money. And then at one point, I know the state was paying good money to house their inmates, in county jails. But I think there are some counties, I think, built jails thinking they would be profitable. They'd make money on it, and I don't think that's materialized.
Right.
But anyway, you've done a good job bringing up this issue, and I assume that you plan on keeping this issue.
For me, this issue started with the fiscal court yesterday, and it will continue throughout the election cycle for this year and next year. One thing I do want to say, which was really a strange thing that happened to me in that meeting, in that there was someone there that I didn't know was going to be there, and I want to make sure that that person was, they may have had the same goals of mine that I did, but Don Thrasher was in that meeting, and I'm not quite sure why he was there. Maybe sometime you can ask him or whatever. Maybe he had the same things in mind, but a lot of the things that I was going to say at the fiscal court, they were asking me what I was going to say. I didn't feel comfortable saying in front of him because I don't know him. He may be on my side. I don't know, but I asked for a meeting with the jailer. I knew Jessica was going to come.
Sure.
And Keisha Copeland came with me as well. But I didn't know Thrasher was going to be there, and I hope that he had the NAACP or its thoughts in mind in helping us, and was not something that was a hindrance of us. And so therefore I mention his name now for it to publicly be there, so that there's no possibility he could be tied to the NAACP for good or bad.
Right.
Okay, and so it's important for me to get that out there first, because strategically it's the smart thing to do. Unless I know you, I don't know you. Right? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't. It was kind of weird, strange.
Do you? We've got about 10 minutes left. Do you want to talk more about the daycare incident?
Yeah, I appreciate you carving a little time out for that, because this one is near and dear to my heart. This one is the reason why the NAACP is here, and we are here to speak and ask questions for those who, as an individual, would go into an office and not get the information they're seeking because you're just not relevant enough, okay? And on this particular issue, and the reason why it is so important to the NAACP is, and I said this yesterday in the fiscal court, the number one nightmare of a working mother is to drop their kid off at a daycare in hopes that they will be taken care of. and praying the whole 8 hours while they're working that their child's not going to be mistreated.
Right.
Okay, that's the issue. Okay, and so what we have here is a child. And yesterday it was just incredible to me when I had the confrontation with Matthew Height. That he allowed me to paint him into the corner where he said that it was water in the bottle and not a disinfectant. Now, or a disinfectant, yeah. So I personally believe that in this COVID time, the place that you absolutely want to wipe down all the time is where kids are. Sure. I mean, in a daycare. You want to keep those surfaces as much clean as you can. And so, one, I reject the idea that it was not a disinfectant. Okay, that's the first thing. But it could indeed be water. And so instead of in open court him telling me, no, Jeff, this was water, we checked on it. What he said was, and this is where you don't know what you're talking about. Right. Not knowing that I was hoping that he would say that it was water, because to me, water meant that someone took the time and said, when I control these babies today, I'm going to spray them in the face with water. Let me take this bottle and fill it up with water and keep it on my hip like it's a 6-shooter. And every time a kid cries and I don't want them to cry, I'm going to look at them not as a human being but a cat or dog or something and spritz them with water. Okay? So don't tell me that water is better. I mean, it's actually worse. I mean, because to me it means premeditation, and so I can understand now why he would not want to take on a case like that and doesn't think he's going to win it. I mean, you have to think logically. And so when he told me, the last time he told me that he felt like that this was not a case that he could prosecute because he couldn't win it, that went all through me. Because to be honest with you, you're not. So there are some district attorneys and prosecutors that are wanting a good record so they can be judged someday, or so they can be the mayor, the governor, or something like that. But right. This guy, this particular attorney is a prosecutor in Nelson County, and I don't know if that's the ladder that you take to get to glory, but I don't see that. And so I took that. And the example I used was swatting a kid in Walmart and not getting arrested by the police. I mean, so, in this day and age, we can't discipline our kids without the possibility of going to jail. Sure. And so you can't tell me that a kid would be sprayed with water. And then the next thing was the most heinous video that I've ever seen, where this baby was spin around on this merry-go-round till it was dizzy, and then falling flat on their face, and then laughing in the background. Is not a systemic problem. And so what I'm saying is that the conditions in that facility were such that you could do these sort of things with impunity and you wouldn't have to worry about it. So it's really important for me, because I made that point about a baby's cry and a woman or anybody, a human being, listening and hearing that cry, and from a primal standpoint, understanding that and hearing it. And the all-men fiscal court, I don't believe, heard that cry. And so I'll leave it at that. And so you hear a lot of I don't believe or that sort of thing. So I'm not stating facts. That's my gut feeling in engaging people. Right.
Sorry. What was the
Go ahead.
Sorry, the outcome of that incident?
So I think it was one of those things where the system throws somebody on the bus to keep the system going and to keep the facility open. I think, and I mean, so this is something someone can ask. I mean, maybe someone can call in or something like that. But I think that either the water bottle person got put in jail or the merry-go-round. But I don't think they both did. And I do know for a fact, this is what I know for a fact, the daycare is open right now as we speak, and because the county can't intervene, it is wide open season to spray or spin a kid at that daycare as we're talking right now of an issue that was in the past. It could actually be happening now because there's no deterrent to keeping that from happening. I mean, I didn't say that, he did.
Well, there's also, and I don't know that this was a factor, but of course the daycare was owned by a former mayor.
That could be.
And there's always politics in what happens. But I heard the county attorney too say all the things you've mentioned, and And I think there's a disagreement that he looks at it from the legal standpoint, can I win?
Yeah.
And I think you're looking at it from the human standpoint
Right, exactly.
of what's right.
Right.
You know, you don't treat a child like that. You know, that's just not what's acceptable.
The history is full of people that went into battle and lost, but for a good cause. And there are also, and I'm not putting this on him, there are also people that stood and waited and did not go into battle. And so all I'm saying is, if it's if it's true, if it's something you need to protect the citizenry from, then you need to do that. You really need to do that. The same thing goes for Buck. If he doesn't have enough fun, he needs to fight for that. He needs to fight for that because that's the right thing to do. And the same thing about the county as far as this facility that in our area. They need to do that. They need to do that because this person actually did it twice. They need to do that to send a message to all the other daycare centers. Don't spray babies with water. You know, don't do things to them. You know, my kids, myself, and they laugh at it right now because they're very old. But they told me that when they were little, I took them to a daycare center and they were really mean to them. And it's really it touches you even now. And because I was thinking, well, you know, I couldn't do anything. I had to work. I mean, you had to go there. You know what I mean? We were doing it for you, but it doesn't have to be that way. People can be better. People can do better. People can ensure that better is happening.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it seems to me that if they have cameras at these daycare centers, that somebody should be policing that. I mean, the person who runs it should be watching them.
Or if there's no penalty for it, you don't need cameras. I mean, if you're not going to do anything about it, if you're not going to prosecute it, let's say, then you really don't need cameras. I mean, you just go on and spray them. You just go on and torture them.
Yeah.
That's what you do because you can get away with it.
Right.
I mean, that's what you do. I agree with you 100%. There ought to be a way where if you're a mother that you should be able to, because I can see what's going on in my house right now from my iPhone. I've got cameras there.
Right.
So that a true good daycare center gives you a Wi-Fi link that you want to ever check on your kid, even if it's at break, you know, when in your break and you're in the break room, you can dial it up and look at it. So yeah, there's yes, there's the same technology for the jail.
Sure.
Well, all of that, you know, if you don't want to watch the camera, give me the link. I'll watch it from my house. I don't know what else to say. You know what I mean? It's not that difficult. And I know I'm running out of time.
It can be done.
Yes, it can be done, and everything can be thought up. You don't have to hire more people. Technology can allow you to hire less people. The whole thing about people not having jobs is because automation is taking some of those jobs. And you know, if you don't want to spend it, what better way to do it than automate something at the jail so that you can ensure that people are where they were or where they need to be.
Well, I had a friend of mine just a few years ago worked in loss prevention, and he, from his home, remotely monitored 2 different liquor stores.
Yeah.
And so when there was something happening, he'd quickly give a phone call to the facility and say,
somebody's pulling out of the ice.
Right,
You're cool,
right.
right?
Right, but you know, he got to work from home and, you know, sit in his PJs, I would assume, if he wanted to, but he was providing an important service.
Yes.
And you know, the cameras at the jail seemed to be something that could be remotely monitored.
That's right.
In the same way.
I mean, hire a service.
Right.
Hire a service to watch it.
Right.
Just watch the hallway floors.
Sure.
Yeah, hire a service. Yeah. Again, I don't want to encroach on their.
Yeah. That's
it's not mine.
How the jail is run is up to Buck and Jessica, and in cooperation with Fiscal Court.
Yes, right.
And I mean that's where the bucks stop.
Yes,
You know?
that's what I told him.
So to
The buck
speak.
literally stops with you. Right. Well, and so I told them that you know, during this next election cycle, you know, expect to be hearing about what about the question on the jail, because that is something that everybody, I hope, will see as something that they care about.
Well, there are a lot of people in Nelson County who had people in that jail.
That's right. That's right. And could later on. So you never know.
Including their employees.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
All right. Well, we're just about down to the wire, Jeff. I want to thank you for taking time.
Thank
to come
you.
in.
I really enjoyed this. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your passion and speaking out in Fiscal Court and not backing down when you were challenged, because I think that you know,
Some do.
you're not the solution provider, but you are pointing out shortcomings in some of these issues, and I think that's, you know, if it's not voiced publicly, it's never
lost.
addressed.
Right.
It's lost. All right. Well, Margie, let's see. We have a guest on the schedule for next week, don't we? I think we'll have a representative from Flagey Hospital
Yes.
to talk about the...
Yes, we do. Sarah Gabehart from Flagey Hospital Oncology Center is going to be our guest and talk about all the services that the Oncology Center offers to the people here in Nelson County.
Excellent, excellent. Well, they treated my wife when she had breast cancer and got great care there. And it was so nice to stay in Bardstown, Nelson County.
Right.
You sure you
get that-
call me back for an update on this?
Oh, I will.
Yeah,
I
on this
will.
investigation.
Yeah, keep us posted, Jeff, and maybe we can have you back on.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Bradford and Brooks. Again, thanks to our guest, Jeff Stone. And we will be back next Wednesday with another guest. And so in the meantime, you have a great week and enjoy
WBRT
the weather
Bardstown,
for the coming
1320
few days.
AM and 97.1
Take care.
FM, the most listened to radio station in Nelson County.